Hey, what you reading for?
Hello and welcome to my YouTube channel where I talk about books, literary, horror, classics, and contemporary. Boy, do I have a great top 10 list for you today. I'm quite proud of this one. Top 10 greatest debuts of all time. All genres, although it's mostly literary. What are my criteria for this list? Well, firstly, the book must be a novel. So, for example, Maya Angelou's I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. Great debut, but it is a memoir, so it is not eligible. Secondly, I am only considering books from novelists who would go on to write other novels, in the plural. So, for example, Harper Lee, To Kill a Mockingbird, fantastic book. But she would only write one more novel after that. So not eligible. Also, J.D. Salinger, Catcher in the Rye. He would go on to write and have a great career after that, but short stories and novellas. So also not eligible for the list. And is also the case for Arundhati Roy with The God of Small Things. Fantastic book, 5-star read, but she only wrote one other novel after that. And Nervous Conditions by Tsitsi Dangarembga. Great debut, very successful and important book. And she has gone on to write 2 more novels, but they were just follow-ups to Nervous Conditions. So I am not, so she is not eligible either. I'm only considering books from novelists who would go on to write different stories, different characters, different worlds. This is not a list of top 10 one-hit wonders. That's a different list. I am taking into account the impact the book had and the ambition. The books I have selected aren't necessarily groundbreaking, but they each demonstrate an impressive amount of ambition on the part of the writer. And I am also taking into account how much I personally enjoyed the book, how impressed I was. This is a personal top 10 based largely on my opinion. There is a chance, a very good chance, that your opinion may be different. Perhaps your favorite debut novel did not make my list and you find that simply scandalous. You may be tempted to go onto the comment section and let me know just how outraged you are that I did not include your favorite debut novel. If that is the case, do not resist that temptation. Get onto the comment section and let me have it. I am very curious to hear what, in your opinion, are the greatest debut novels of all time, and I'm always looking for recommendations, so I welcome your feedback. Scandalized, outraged, or otherwise. In addition to the top 10 list, I am also going to give you 3 honorable mentions, 3 books that almost made the list, but not quite. So we have a lot of great books to get to. But first, are you subscribed to this channel? If not, now is the time to hit that subscribe button. And while you do that, I'm going to run a short intro sequence and I will see you on the other side for the top 10 greatest debuts of all time. We'll start things off with 3 honorable mentions. First, Less Than Zero, Bret Easton Ellis. It was a big hit. It launched him into a great career as a writer, and it's a unique and ambitious work. But I also think that it's a bit dated. I read this book recently, and while I did like it, I'm not sure that it holds up really all that well. At least not enough to make this list. Next honorable mention, Lord of the Flies by William Golding. Great book. I considered it. It just didn't make the cut. And when I first came up with this idea for this list, I had at number 10, I had A Kiss Before Dying by Ira Levin. It's a big hit, winner of the Edgar Award for Best Debut Novel. And he went on to have quite a career as a writer. And I love this book, but I also recognize that it's kind of a silly book. It's over the top and camp, exactly what we would come to expect from Ira Levin. But I felt ultimately that it kind of clashed with the other selections on this list, because this list is a serious list for serious works of literature. I love A Kiss Before Dying, but it didn't make the final list. That's it for the honorable mentions. Now let's kick things off. Drum roll, please. At number 10, The Curious Incident with the Dog in the Nighttime by Mark Haddon. Published in 2003 to critical acclaim, this book is narrated by a young boy who has Asperger's syndrome. I have never read anything like this. And unique and daring, which is what this book is, that always has me very excited. I loved this book. A strange thing happened when I finished reading it. All of a sudden, like, my contact lenses started irritating my eyes. It was strange. And they got all red and watery. You know how that happens when your contact lenses just immediately out of nowhere start irritating your eyes? So I finished the book, and then I had to dry off my eyes. That was strange. The whole time I was reading this book, I couldn't get out of my head the image of the autistic reporter from The Onion.
Autistic reporter Michael Falk has the story.
I have the story. At 4:05 p.m., a 100,000-pound Comet Liner 2 stainless steel car ran into a man at the Braxton station. Luckily, there was no structural damage caused to the car's chassis, so it was only a matter of cleaning the train to remove the human debris and return it to a pristine state.
Oh, just a terrible accident, Michael.
No, Brooke. This was a very lucky day for the train. If it had been hit by something bigger like a car or a boulder or a large animal, it could have been dented.
Okay, do you know anything about the man that the train hit, Miguel Laviera?
He's dead now, Brooke. The train, because of its Westinghouse Echem XCA 448F propulsion system, requires a minimum stopping distance of 625 feet. Before the train came to a complete stop, it ran over 3 trash bags, a piece of gum, a Snickers wrapper, a man, and a glove.
The Curious Incident with the Dog in the Nighttime is a very different experience than the clip I just showed you. And it's a great book, I think, and it comes in at number 10. At number 9, something completely different. First Blood by David Morell from 1972. A Vietnam War veteran squares off with a small-town Kentucky sheriff and the National Guard in this action/survivalist debut that spawned a hit movie franchise, Rambo. Great characters, nuanced and well fleshed out. Great action, and I especially love the survivalist aspect of the story, where the protagonist hides out in the Kentucky mountains while a small army hunts him down. The movie franchise is something completely different from the book, so get that out of your head when thinking about this book. This is a great book and a great debut, and it comes in at number 9. At number 8, something completely different. Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie from 1981. Winner of the Booker Prize for Fiction, among other accolades. This ambitious debut tells the story of India, its independence, the birth of a nation. And it tells this story as a parallel to a story about twins separated at birth. And thanks to their privilege or lack thereof, they go on to live vastly different lives. The way this book is narrated reminded me of those contraptions, you know, where you send a marble to roll down a rail and it hits some dominoes, and the dominoes falls onto a lever which releases a ball to spiral down a slide and falls into a bucket, and the bucket topples over and the ball rolls down a plank and the plank hits the switch and the switch drops the egg onto the frying pan or whatever. You know, those kinds of contraptions. Not the most efficient way to tell a story, but it is always entertaining, and it's ambitious, and definitely worthy of its spot on my list at number 8. Coming in at number 7, not something completely different. In fact, I would consider this book to be an excellent sister read to Midnight's Children, and that is White Teeth by Zadie Smith from the year 2000. Immigrants in England have children, and they watch them grow up in a culture different than the one that they grew up in, with priorities and desires different from what they knew as children. And they watch them forge their own identities, which are sometimes in conflict with the traditions and the expectations that they grew up with. White Teeth is an examination of gender gap and cultural divide, and it manages to juggle a wide array of diverse characters and gives them each a unique voice and weaves their stories together to form an examination of the comedy of relationships and family. An impressive debut, winner of the Guardian First Book Award, among many literary accolades, including making it onto my list of top 10 debuts, coming in at number 7. At number 6, The Contortionists Handbook by Craig Clevenger from 2002. Now, this book is a bit of an aberration compared to other books on this list. It was not a big hit. It did not receive award consideration. Why it was not a big hit and it didn't receive award consideration, I have no idea. I am baffled because this book is amazing. An expert forger of documents continuously gives himself and his clients new identities. However, when he is hospitalized after a drug overdose, he needs to fool the hospital psychiatric evaluator, or else he will be incarcerated, or worse. And with his clients in the seedy LA criminal underworld, with them on his heels, he's in danger. But an even more danger is the woman who knows his real name. There's a bit of a psychological cat and mouse game going on here with high stakes. The book is expertly written, beautifully crafted, and it also manages to have quite a lot of heart. I don't know why this book isn't talked about more often. I don't know why Craig Clevenger isn't more famous. I think he is one of the best writers working today. His follow-up to this debut, Dermaphoria, is also a masterpiece. If you haven't already, do yourself a favor and check out Craig Clevenger. And a good place to start would be The Contortionists Handbook. And it's well deserving of its place on my ranking, coming in at number 6. At number 5 is a book that is so inventive, it is practically its own genre, or practically started its own a new genre. A new genre that not many writers, if any, have subsequently explored, because it's ridiculously difficult to write and requires an obscene amount of specific knowledge. Do you have an idea as to what book I am talking about? From 1983, the highly impressive debut from Umberto Ecco, The Name of the Rose. This is a medieval mystery, or a medieval forensics procedural, actually, with amazing characters, an intriguing mystery, and without my knowing it, I'm reading this book and I'm learning tons of stuff. I'm learning about history, about the politics of the church, about botany, loads of stuff. A very impressive book and a highly rewarding read. Of course, it was made into a hit movie starring Sean Connery. And as good as the movie is, I think it simply doesn't compare to the book, which is a masterpiece. And it comes in at number 5. At number 4, The Night of the Hunter by Davis Grubb from 1953. This is a spectacular literary thriller, literary horror. The Night of the Hunter is The Grapes of Wrath meets The Terminator. 2 small children are hunted down the Ohio River by a villainous con man who calls himself Preacher. As many literary flourishes as there are thrills, The Night of the Hunter is a gorgeously written page-turner, well-deserved of its status as a classic, and well-deserved of its place on my top 10 at number 4. Coming in at number 3, Fight Club by Chuck Palahniuk from 1999. Now, what is so great about this book and so great about this author is I would argue that you could blindly take a random book from a library among millions of books, let's say, and you open it up and you start reading, and if it's a Chuck Palahniuk book, even a Chuck Palahniuk book you have not read before, after a few sentences, you will know that it's a Chuck Palahniuk book, which is an amazing achievement for a writer, and I don't think that's the case for most books. I don't think that's the case for most writers. And this highly impressive achievement, I feel he managed to accomplish it right from his debut, right from Fight Club. Very impressive debut. At number 2, House of Leaves by Mark Z. Danielewski from the year 2000. Unique? Check. Expertly written? Check. Ambitious? Definitely. This masterful debut is like no other. It is the story about a documentary, or rather the media's commentaries about the documentary, and a blind man's interpretation of these commentaries, which he dictates to assistants to create a manuscript, which is lost, and then later found by a junkie who writes his own story in the margins. I am only scratching the surface here. House of Leaves is a literary onion where you peel back layer after layer, some of which are scary, some of which are pure poetry, and some require psychological or sociological investigation, and it's hilarious. I have talked about this book in so many of the videos I've put out. 4 unique haunted house book recommendations. I also talked about this book in my video, Top 10 Horror Books of All Time. So I will invite you to check out those videos if you'd like to hear my more in-depth take on it. For now, I will just say that I will just highly encourage you to check it out if you haven't already. However, with a warning, if you do decide to check out this book, just know that it is not a book that you can really read very quickly. It needs to be consumed slowly, and it does take some time and some effort, at least initially, but it is definitely worth it, in my opinion. In fact, I think it is the second greatest debut novel of all time. Which means that coming in at number 1, can you guess what it is? The greatest debut novel in the history of literature? The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison from 1970. A young black girl, 11-year-old Pecola Breedlove, prays for her eyes to turn blue so that she can be as beautiful as all the blue-eyed blonde children in America. The prose is gorgeous. The story is devastating. This is a powerful book, and I would like to share with you a quote. all of our waste which we dumped on her and which she absorbed, and all our beauty which was hers first and which she gave to us, all of us, all who knew her, felt so wholesome after we cleaned ourselves on her. We were so beautiful when we stood astride her ugliness. Her simplicity decorated us. Her guilt sanctified us. Her pain made us glow with health. Her awkwardness made us think we had a sense of humor. Her inarticulateness made us believe we were eloquent. Her poverty kept us generous. Even her waking dreams we used to silence our own nightmares. And she let us, and thereby deserved our contempt. We honed our egos on her, padded our characters with her frailty, and yawned in the fantasy of our strength. The Bluest Eye, a compelling and personal examination of socially constructed ideas of beauty and ugliness, and how these constructs are used to repress and ruin. It is not an easy read, but it is an emotionally powerful read, but it's a good one, and it's an important one. And in fact, in my opinion, it is the greatest debut novel from a great novelist, Toni Morrison. So there it is. What do you think of my list? It's a pretty good list, isn't it? Did I make an egregious omission? If so, you will let me know about it in the comment section. I always enjoy hearing from you. If you would like to support this channel, like, subscribe. I also have books out. Get yourself a book, enjoy it, leave a review. Until then, thank you for watching. I will see you at the next video.